So, welcome back, and today it's all about baking the perfect displacement map in Blender. And I can tell you there is no perfect displacement map, unfortunately, but we're gonna bake out a really good displacement map that works very well basically with cycles. Okay, first of all you need a high resolution mesh. This one here was done in ZBrush a few years ago, and I brought it into Blender, applied the displacement modifier and so on, and baked it into a multi-resolution modifier. So it's basically the same as you would have sculpted this in Blender. I can't sculpt in Blender, but other people can do that. But anyway, here's the result, right? It's just a multi-resolution mesh. And yeah, we got quite a few details here, the major details, right? And here, and smaller details like this damage here, and there's actually one level more, it's quite high. So, and as you can see, it's quite crisp, damage. But this is too slow for my graphics card. It's a very bad graphics card. So you can see damage, right? Let's actually look from the camera. Damage, a lot of patterns here and there, right? Sharp edge here, and yeah, damage. Looks rough, natural, and so on. Okay, and we want to bake out a displacement map to use the adaptive / micro displacement stuff from cycles, right? We're going to bake out the map, apply this map in cycles, and we want the same result as our high resolution mesh, basically. So let's take a look at the picture. Here's the picture. That's the low resolution mesh. Then you saw the high resolution mesh. I baked out this displacement map. I applied this displacement map to this low resolution mesh, and that's the final result from cycles. And as you can see, it looks almost the same, or actually it looks like 99.5% of the mesh of the original sculpt. All the details are here and there, right? All the damage is here and there. Here's the damage, right? And here the cuts, the patterns and so on. That's actually a larger image. So let's take a look at this one. You can see the sharp edge also here, right? And the details look really good actually. And it was 100% done in Blender. So unfortunately the baking process in Blender is a little strange and not that great, right? You have to be very careful to get a good result, but I'm going to show you what you have to do for that. First of all, you need this high resolution mesh, right? There are not a lot of rules for that, but it shouldn't be too stretchy, right? It should be, it should have a good polygon flow for the high resolution mesh, otherwise it should just look good. Then you need a low resolution mesh. In this case it's the smoothed version, but you could create a new one. But there are a few more rules for that. You should go very high with the polygons, right? You should have a lot of polygons, like for this mesh here 3,000 to 6,000 polygons. This one you got 4,500 roughly. And you need those polygons, otherwise you can't recreate this with scalar displacement, right? Vector displacement is different, but Cycles doesn't support it at the moment. So you need a lot of polygons, and it's quite common to use 4,000 to 6,000 polygons for such a mesh here, or for a head, for example, right? 4,000 to 6,000 polygons or more, 8,000 polygons is not a problem at all. Don't use 200 or 600 polygons, that's too low, I can definitely tell you that. It should be higher, right? And then there's a second thing. You should look at it from a distance like this, and then the silhouette from the low resolution mesh should cover the high resolution mesh, right? It shouldn't look different, it should look almost the same. Not those details here aren't important, only the silhouette, right? Should look the same, and as you can see it's roughly the same, so this is very good. Okay, and that's actually enough polygons and the rough silhouette from the high resolution mesh. Then you need UV layout for the displacement, and I'd like to use different UV layouts for different maps. For displacement I would suggest to use the least amount of seams possible, right? In this case it's just one seam automatically done in ZBrush, but it's just one seam. Looks like that. A little weird, you can't paint on it, but it's perfectly fine for baking. Then you should also cover a lot of your UV space, right? This here is fine. I could have stretched this a little more, but it's fine, right? But if you can use 100% of your UV space, you should do that. Don't do something like this here, right? This is quite stupid. So, but this here is fine. And yeah, if you have to use 2, 3, 4 seams, then you have to use those seams. But if you can unwrap your mesh with one seam, use one seam. If you can use two seams, use two seams, right? Don't cut it into individual pieces, right? So your UV layout looks really pretty or something like that. No, this here is fine, right? One seam and no overlappings. As you can see here, no overlappings. Every face, right, UV face here should have a little bit of this space here. Not too small, yeah, not faces like this here. No, that's not good. It should be like this size or bigger. No overlapping and so on. And the least amount of seams possible. Okay, that's for your base mesh. You could also recreate it from scratch, but then the same rules, right? Okay, I copied this and here's the low resolution mesh with the 001 on it. Same UV layout, same seams and so on. Okay, then you have to delete your multi-resolution modifier, or if it's a new one, then you don't have to delete this, but you have to add a subset modifier. And then you have to set the render levels, not this adaptive stuff here, this won't work. You have to set the render levels the same as in your high resolution sculpt, right? In this case it's 5, and this one got 4.5 million polygons. It's quite high, so set this to 5, not to 6. 6 would be 17 million, that would be a little high, right? Set it to 5, right? But rule of thumb, set it to the same level as your render level, right? From the high resolution mesh. So that's it actually for this. One thing, at the moment Cycles does not support subdivide UV, so you have to uncheck that, right? It's checked, but you have to uncheck that for both meshes. Okay, now the strange part, we have to go to Blender render, right? You don't have to change the materials, don't add something, just click Blender render, and then the adaptive stuff will disappear, but you should see render, in this case 5, or your high resolution level, right? Then you go to render settings, and then there's the bake panel somewhere. Open this bake panel, and that's how it should look like, I think. There's the margin, right? You don't need 16, right? 4 or 5 is enough. Anyway, 10 is okay. Clear is also okay. Check this selected to add active. Check this and set everything to 0, right? This is important, everything to 0. This option here and the distant option to 0. And change it to displacement. Then there are, let's actually put this here. There are a few more bake modes. This one here, I have no idea how to get this one working. It doesn't work really. And then there's a normalized option. Check that for now. We have to uncheck this later, but for now, check that. Set everything to 0, and that's fine, right? Then you go to your high resolution mesh. In this case, top means pot, right? You have to select this one and then the active one. You want to bake on this, right? You're going to bake on this one. You don't want to bake on this one. So select the high resolution first, then shift select the layers, or if it's on the second layer, shift select the layer and shift select the next mesh. In this case, top 001. So this should be, the low res mesh should be the active mesh, right? And then we need a map. Let's go into edit mode, right? Because we need a map to bake this on. And the question is what size, right? I mean, if you look at this here, new image, there's 1K map, 2K map, 4K map, 8K map, or even bigger. And there's a simple rule you can stick to. And it works very well in most cases. First of all, you have to know your high resolution polygon count. And we know that 4.5 million polygons. And then you have to square root that, right? Just calculate this, square root 4.5 million in this case. So it's 2.1 something. So you have to use at least a map that's over 2100 pixels width and height, right? Right? Not 1K, over 2K. But that's not enough, because that would mean your UV layout is 100% covered, but it's obviously not. So we have to use a bigger map. And in this case, I would say a 3K map is fine. A 4K map would also be fine, but that would be wasted memory. So a 3K map for this UV layout is perfectly fine, right? Calculate the square root of your high resolution polygon count and go up to the next integer, basically 3, 4, right? 3 is fine for this. If your mesh would have like 9 million polygons and you calculate the square root of this one, that would be 3. So you would have to bake it into a 4K map, because you can't cover 100% of your UV layout. In some cases that might be possible, but in 99% of the cases it's not. So go a little higher, right? But don't bake such a high amount of polygons into a 1K map. That's, you can't bake all the details in it. So let's close this one and let's add a 3K map. Multiply this by 3 here, right? You could also add just 3000, it doesn't really matter, right? But let's calculate it by 3. Give it a name, let's call this displacement, right? Displacement. And check this one here, this is quite important, 32-bit float. We can't bake the 32-bit values, unfortunately, but we have to check this, otherwise it will bake out an 8-bit map. I think it will look really weird, so check this one, that's very important. And then click OK. But you can change everything here in the properties panel. So zoom out, you could also give it a color, whatever. And then change this for now to sRGB, so you can see something, right? Because we have to check our map first. In a few cases, your bake will fail and you have to check that. Okay, float buffer, the size, sRGB for now. Everything is selected, right? And then you just have to bake this. Normalized on, just bake it, right? It will take a second. I'm gonna pause this, so back in a sec. So done, and that's how it looks like at the moment, right? This is just for checking. And if you look at this map, you can see a lot of details, right? And no weird artifacts. So everything looks pretty smooth and all those details here, right? I can tell you this map is perfectly fine. So, but we have to rebake this, because if you would change it to linear, you can't really see the details. That's why you have to change it to sRGB and check this normalized option. And then you have to search for those artifacts. I'm going to show you the artifacts in a different mesh. But this one here has no artifact. As you can see, it's perfectly baked. And the color is not important for the displacement map, right? Only the values are important, right? Only the values, not the color. So now let's bake the proper one. So change this to linear. It's not important, but you can change this to linear. It will reset the map anyway. Float buffer, important size, and uncheck this normalized. And then bake it again with 0, 0, selected to active. First the high resolution, then the low resolution. Press bake. So let me pause this. So, and here's the proper map. As you can see, you can't really see those details. That's why you have to change all the stuff to check out this map, right? And if we hover over this map and clicking on it, then you can see the values here. And those values should be around 0.5, right? Not 0.7 or 0.2, no, they should be around 0.5, right? 4953, that's totally fine, but not 0.7 or 0.9, that would be wrong in most cases. Okay, then we have to save this map, right? Oh no, this was wrong. Image, save as image. And not as PNG, I would suggest to bake it as OpenEXR, full float. You could also save it as a half float, it's much smaller. At the moment, I think there's a bug in Cycles, so usually it converts the full float into half floats at render time, but not at the moment anyway. I would save it out as full float, and then with a little bit of compression, zip, for example. This is not really important here, what you choose, and zbuffer no. And then displacement.exr, and just save it, right? So now it's saved, and we can change this here without resetting our stuff. So that's sRGB, but this is wrong, as you can see. We don't want 0.2 values. We want linear values or non-color values, right? So linear or non-color looks a little different, but those are the same values, right? Around 0.5, and we have to apply this in cycled. So let's go back to cycled render, and here's the material. So let's go to this layer. Here's our first render, and actually let's render the high resolution. So we have something to look at, and yeah, let's just render this. Takes a second, I think. Let's see how long. Synchronizing. Okay, yeah, we'll post that, so back in a sec. So here it is. This is the original sculpt, right? Those are the real polygons, right, from this layer here. Oops, I have to select the correct one, so write the multi-resolution mesh. No displacement mapping involved, but now we want to apply this displacement map, so we need a texture, and it's already loaded, so just choose the displacement, and then change this to non-color here, right, or linear here. I would just change it to non-color, it's more safe. And then we have to do something, and it's always the same, right? We need a math node, connect this one to the first slot, set it to subtract, and we're going to subtract 0.5. It's always the same value, 0.5. You could group this and call this a displacement node. Subtract node, then we need a multiply node. Set this to multiply, connect this one, and multiply it with 10. It's always the same at the moment, right? In Blender 2.78, 2.79, right? And then connect this to the displacement slot, right? We could group this to a displacement node. It's always the same, 0.5, subtract, multiply 10. Okay, that's it actually, nothing more. Then we have to check adaptive, because we want to use adaptive, and make sure the render value is 1 pixel, right? 1 pixel is very good for displacement. A little lower would be also good, but 1 is fine. Especially if you got a very good displacement base mesh for displacement mapping. So then we have to go to the second slot, and let's just render this. So let's hit the render here, and let's see how quick this is. Okay, let me pause this. So, and what you can see, that's our displaced mesh, and look at the memory, 345, and that's not with an optimized map, right? It would be even lower, but it's a very small image anyway. Let's compare to our original mesh. This is over 1 gigabyte, and if you look closer, right, the original mesh, that's the displaced mesh, and 99%, right, or 99.5%, it's the same. It's a little different, right? You can see a theme here, right? That's on purpose actually. Here you can see here the theme. So I'm going to show you in a later tutorial how to cover up those themes. But for now you have to hide them, but you can't hide them on this mesh. But yeah, the goal here is it should look the same, and it does, right? And it's way lower in memory. Okay, that's actually it. You have to bake it like that with those values. Let's go actually back. 0, 0, normalized off. Don't bake from multi-race, this is crap, right? So let's take a look at another example. And that's a head. I downloaded this one from somewhere. And as you can see, this is also quite high polygon, right? You need this. Don't go too low. This one has like 7,000, and that's not even high. I would add a few more for 10,000, because this one got a problem, but I'm gonna show you how to fix this problem. Okay, this one has actually 5 layers of subdivision, but we only use 3 because it's quicker, right? But this is, oh damn it. Okay, let's undo this, good. That's the high resolution sculpt, so let's take a look at this. Right, a few details, the pores and whatnot, right? Eyes, mouth, lips, even the shirt, right? This one has over 7 million, so we're going to use only this 3rd level. Okay, and let's do the same, right? This is our high resolution mesh, this is our sculpted mesh. It's unwrapped. You can see the unwrap, it's a very good unwrap for a displacement map because it's just one seam, right? Okay, in the mouse, but you can't see the mouse. Anyway, let's go to Blender render again. First of all, we have to check the levels, right? 3. We want to use 3, otherwise we would set it to 5, right? But we want 3. We go to Blender render. Check this again. Okay, go to render panel. Let's push this up. And the same settings. Let's check the normalize. 0, 0, and the margin doesn't matter actually. Okay, now we have to select our high resolution, then shift select this layer and shift select the low resolution, 001, right? This material is not important, it's only for cycles. And yeah, we need to add a displacement map, and this is the final map actually, so we have to create a new one. This one got 7 million polygons, so you could calculate the square root and so on, but the 4K map for this mesh is fine. A little smaller would be also okay, but 4K is fine, right? Check 32-bit float, give it a name, test, for example, and add this. Okay, float buffer, set this to sRGB so we can see something, and yeah, press bake. I think that's quite quick. Let's actually check that. Yeah, it's quite quick. So that's how it looks like. I mean, from a distance, it looks quite good, right? But those are the artifacts that you don't want. And I have actually no idea why this is wrong. I've tried to change the settings here, but you can't fix this. And if you see something like that in your map, something like this weird, whatever it is, right? And it's just on this side, really strange. But if you see something like this, you have to fix this in the geometry here. And yeah, what you have to do is just add a little more, or just in this case, it's enough to just scale it a little bit, push it a little up, make it a little bigger, right? So it covers more of the original mesh, and that should be it. So let's try this. It's just a minor thing, but you have to do it manually. That's why you have to check your displacement map. So that's the new mesh, right? And now we're going to bake this again. Everything is selected, and actually let's take a look at this here and bake. Takes a few seconds, but you can see now it's gone perfectly fine. And yeah, you have to search for this, right? And as you can see, everything is fine. And I can tell you it will happen in such areas here where it's quite different from the original mesh. Let's actually subdivide the original mesh, and you can see it's a little different here. It's quite a bump here. Anyway, with the fixed mesh it works, as you can see. So just fix the mesh a little bit and try it again, right? Don't change the settings. It should work with those settings, right? So, and I baked out already the map, so let's go to 2. Then you have to load this map, right? Save this as OpenXR, full float, and so on. Subtract 0.5 multiplied by 10, and connect this to displacement. Make sure we go back to cycles render, press adaptive, right? Render 1 pixel. You need those polygons, otherwise the displacement is not that great. You need at least 1 pixel. And yeah, then there's the displacement method. Let me quickly explain this. There's true, it's just displacement, and both this displacement bump mapping. With true, the seams aren't that visible. With both, you will see seams, right? But not on this mesh because it's behind this. So for this mesh, both is fine, but both is also slower. We don't have to render this because I pre-rendered it. Render result. Okay, first of all, that's our original mesh, right? The multi-resolution mesh, and you can see a lot of details here, and the eyes and the pores, lips here, and so on, right? Yeah, there's the deep depth of field on it, but you should take a look at this silhouette here. Now we're going to compare this to the rendered version, true displacement, right? This is with true displacement. It's not as sharp. I don't know if you can see this, but it's not as sharp as the original one. But it has the same shape, right? It looks almost the same. There's not a big difference, and it's a little faster, 2 seconds. And then there's the both version, and this is quite slow. It's slower, with bump mapping slower, but looks sharper because of the bump mapping, right? Let's compare this. You can see, looks quite good. And this is the smoothed version. So this is the displaced version. And yeah, again, here this silhouette. Yeah, looks good. Original bump mapping. Even a few more details because of the bump mapping, right? Yeah, that's it. Quite a long tutorial, I think. Create a great base mesh with a lot of polygons like this, right? Don't go too low. Even a few more polygons would be possible for this ear here, or the nose, right? There should be holes for the nose. Could be better, but this was also done automatically in ZBrush. Anyway, and then you subtract this and multiply this. It's always the same workflow. It should work, right? Otherwise, fix the mesh, not the settings, because it will mess up your values. Okay, that's it. Hope that was a little helpful, and if you've got a problem, just leave a comment. So, thanks for watching. See you next video.